the Marlins offense is finding ways to string wins together and string big innings together. But we need to talk about Jazz Chisholm's K rate. We need to talk about Jesus Sanchez's batting average, K rate maybe. We also need to talk about Brian De La Cruz, who's absolutely trending, no doubt about it. The offense looks better. It's coming together. There's still a few warning signs. They're going to dig into all of those today on Locked On Marlins with Sean Barrett again for the Tuesday episode.
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings from England and welcome to Locked On Marlins. This, of course, is your daily Marlins podcast. I am your host, Peter Pratt. Hit me up on Twitter at MiamiMarlins_UK. If you are listening, hit subscribe to the pod. It's your team every single day. And hello to all of the everydayers as well. Yes, sir. As I mentioned, if you are an everydayer and you are grinding through these, not grinding, that's the wrong word. If you are enjoying all of these episodes on a daily basis, then please do comment on YouTube. Locked On Marlins, hit subscribe there too. Give us a thumbs up, whatever it might be. Sean Barrett is back in the house. This is almost a double header. I'm not going to lie. It's almost double header vibes where there's just so much to get into from over the weekend and looking ahead that we had to hit 2 episodes. So this will be Tuesday's episode, but in UK time. This may be Eastern time, still on Monday. So for those listening in the US, which based on the stats I see is probably 90% of people listening to this pod, you've now had a double header on a Monday. So, nevertheless, Sean Barrett back in the house. We're in the same clothes as yesterday's episode, but it's all good. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing well, Pete. I was going to refer to it being a double header as well. It's always nice to play 2 with you.
Yeah, no doubt, mate. It's just impossible. Like, what we've realized is there's no way to cover a whole weekend of Marlins action in 25 minutes. It's impossible. And so we've decided we're just going to have to skin it up a little bit and split it up, and double headers seem to be the best way. Nevertheless, there's a different sponsor, though, and it's our good friends over at HelloFresh. And those that are listening know this one is close to my heart. I have been using HelloFresh for probably 6 years now. God knows how many boxes that is, but it's a lot. Anyway, skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. That's why it's America's #1 meal kit. It's probably the UK as well. Go to HelloFresh.com/MLB60. Use promo code MLB60 for 60% off plus free shipping. Boy, oh boy, 60% off. I want to be using that code as well. Sean, we want to talk about the offense. Yesterday, we spent a ton of time on the bullpen, the rotation. I want to start with the offense. There's a little bit of bullpen at the back end, but the overall, this offense, I would say, is playing as I expected it to in many ways thus far. Like, it looks and feels a little bit better than last year. It's built differently, which is the first thing to say. And also, the depth guys are contributing as well. I think that's a major factor here for this Marlins offense thus far, is like the bench bats, when they're given opportunities, are actually stepping up. What I'm talking about there is we saw a Garrett Hampson home run, Gurriel's hitting 300. Like, there's bench bats that are stepping up here, no doubt. But overall, this is a type of offense that seems to be built around trying to piece together hit after hit after hit with a few walks sprinkled in there and trying to really accumulate some runs. Ideally, they walk into a home run as well, mate. But, 500 club right now. How are you feeling about this offense more generally? Is there positive vibes in Sean Barrett's head at this point?
I don't think that's ever the case. No, the offense is, as you said, it's been what we kind of expected it to be. You never expect when you look at a guy and you go, this is upside, this is what we hope happens. You don't get that 1 to 9 every year, and you don't get it consistently. So it is a case of piecing it together. Arias has been a stud. Coop's hitting well. Soler, the average isn't there, but the power is, and that's kind of what he is. That's what the Marlins bought when they signed him to a contract. De La Cruz, who I think I preferred as a bench outfielder, play all 3 positions, but actually is slowly but surely earning himself a starting lineup. It is a case of this is an exciting lineup. I do want to just take one thing about Hampson. Yes, he got that home run. Yes, he got a key hit. He's hitting 160. So let's not get too excited about him just right now.
No.
But no, on the whole, the offense is the way it was built, what I expected it to do. At the moment, it's doing its job. And yeah, the Marlins at 500 is exactly where I've been asking them to be for years, and then look to make moves. I mean, we were we were 1 and whatever early in the season. We were 3-7 at one point, and there were a lot of joking, I think, polls of will the Marlins ever get back to 500? And here we are at 500. So I mean, Marlins are right where they need to be. The offense is doing mostly its job. There's a few walks here and there, which I'm sure we're going to get into. But on the whole, yeah, you're not going into a game dreading a 2-0 loss like we did pretty much every night last year.
100%. Like this just feels so different. It feels like there's more chance of more competitive at bats up and down the lineup. It's just my sense of it at this point. And I think that's what we're seeing. Like clearly there's times in games where it's slow and quiet and whatever, but more often than not, recently anyway, the Marlins are finding ways to actually have one decent inning in the game. And maybe that's all they have is a single inning where they can piece it together and get 3 or 4 runs. I think we saw a 5 spot the other day. And, that's, I'm calling it the paper cut inning. That's kind of where it ends up, where they kind of like, it feels like it's a cold night. Next thing is walk, hit by pitch, couple of hits. Next thing is boom, 3 runs down. And, actually they've walked into a couple of homers too, which has been nice. Let's though, there are some bright spots. We talked about him last week in Luis Arias. So we know what we know there. And he's an absolute stud. Hurt his finger, and it's definitely impacted him in the last couple of games, I'd say. He's had his toughest stretch in the last, two games. But clearly the finger is bothering him because he was out the lineup. So, we'll hope that he gets that right. But really, what we saw was Jazz Chisholm sliding to the top of the order, mate. So I'd really like to talk about Jazz. And, really it's been, in the last week, I'd say, it looks like it's been a real struggle for Jazz overall. The K rate is just skyrocketing. Like a lot of at-bats look pretty similar with Jazz at the moment. This isn't, I'm not here trying to slander Jazz and just blow him up and say he's terrible. And I must say, in the first at-bat yesterday, which is the Sunday game against Zach Gallen, it was great to see Jazz heading off against Zach Gallen, by the way. That's forever going to have, be a matchup that we all look to and enjoy. Zach Gallen struck him out on what I think to be the perfect pitch. It was absolutely sensational. Change up, 86, right at the corner spot of the outside part of the plate. It was perfection from Gallen. So one of them for Jazz, you just go, hey, it is what it is, and you're out of there. But we can't ignore the fact he's striking out 40% of the time, Sean. That to me that's unsustainable for Jazz, I think. Where's the concern level at this point for you with Jazz in the leadoff spot and with this K rate? Yeah,
I mean, it is a case of when he first moved to the leadoff spot, he was getting hits and he seemed to be enjoying it a bit more. This coming, I think, the day after him saying on Twitter, "I'm not a cleanup hitter."
Yeah,
and it was going reasonably well, and he's still getting a knock here and a knock there. But yeah, the last 4 games, 10 strikeouts. It's, as you said, it's unsustainable. In the leadoff spot as well. I mean, I can talk till I'm blue in the face about your leadoff guy needing to get on base, a strikeout guy, because Jazz he's always going to be a strikeout guy. Yeah. You hope that it's going to be closer to 25% rather than 33%. At the moment, it's 40%.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't be putting that in your leadoff spot because
Who would you have leading off, Sean? Just sorry to interrupt you, but
still Arias.
All right, okay, you stick with him there.
Yeah, Arias there, personally.
Okay.
And I think De La Cruz hitting as he's currently hitting gives you that little bit of, you can put him in the middle of the lineup by moving Arias out. I think you could quite easily do the 1-2-3 punch of Arias, Coop, maybe Jazz, maybe Soler. But at the moment, if he continues to strike out, I think you're thinking about putting Soler, you're thinking about putting De La Cruz in front of him in the lineup and having him at 5th or 6th.
Yeah, it's interesting to see the way they play. I loved it, and obviously we spoke about it last week that I love Jazz in that spot. I think it just unlocks his speed, but clearly, like if he's striking out pretty much every plate appearance, then yeah, there's no speed to think of, and some of it has been like there's just some really nice pitches. Like it's clear that you know where to target Jazz right now too. Like it's an obvious it's a tough part of the zone anyway to go after for a hitter, but that kind of bottom corner, outside bottom corner for Jazz, like the umpires give it plenty of room, but pitchers know where to go, right? It's the same what we've seen in many ways with Jesus Sanchez, and maybe we'll transition to Jesus here as well. With Jesus, like that hole in his swing was discovered early last year, and as soon as it was discovered, that was it. It was just up in the zone gas, and you could just never catch up with it. You never could.
With the evolution of analytics, you've got all those numbers. I mean, I've got all those numbers in front of me.
Yeah.
So you put that in front of your opposition with brighter minds. It's incredible what they can do, and the pitchers now at that point where they can needle that spot consistently.
Yeah, paper cuts in reverse.
and if a guy can't fix that hole.
Yeah.
Or at least close it to the degree where they can't just keep throwing it there, then they're going to keep doing it, and they're going to keep struggling. You have to. Baseball is a game of adjustments. Yeah. You adjust from pitch to pitch, bat to bat, game to game, series to series. And if you don't make those changes, then that's what the greats do. We talked about Sandy yesterday, and how he continues to work to progress to stay at that level. You don't make those adjustments, you go down. You don't stay where you are, you go down. Because if you don't make the adjustment, the opposition are making those adjustments against you. And Jazz is young, he's raw, he's got all the talent in the world, but that only gets you so far. You need to make those adjustments. You need to learn as you go and fix those issues that you have.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, and like I'm really intrigued to see the way it plays out. Like that specific area that the guys are targeting. And like I said, I do think some of this also links to the fact that he's frustrated with the umpire, and he's been frustrated with the umpiring since he's been in Major League Baseball. Like this has been a theme for multiple years now. That outside corner, fundamentally, the umpire can't see, I don't think, because they're standing to the right shoulder of the catcher. They're looking over, and they're looking like that part of the plate is actually a little bit hidden at times. And so I do feel like half the time they're just, they're guessing. And I mean, it's a tough job. It's a real tough job. But I think Jazz is, he's frustrated with that, with a lot of the calls he gets out there. And he's trying not to expand too much, because as soon as you do that, that kind of snowballs as well. I mean, just to your point, I'm excited to see what adjustments he makes. Do you start seeing it like, just a couple more bunts or something? You start seeing just a bit more opposite field, whatever. It's going to be really interesting to see the way Jazz can adjust, because like you said, 4 games with 10 Ks, with I think a bunt in there and maybe one other hit, that's not optimal. But we'll wait to see. Talk to me about Jesus Sanchez though, mate, because it's fair to say Craig Mish is he's talking about Jesus Sanchez quite a lot at the moment, and that always says to me that the Marlins are thinking about Jesus Sanchez a lot. And he's hitting under 100 thus far. It's looked a lot like 2022 Jesus Sanchez, in all honesty. Through spring, it looked okay, but he hasn't been able to carry it through. The walks are kind of okay, but it feels like the clock is ticking here on Jesus Sanchez, and we're approaching a DFA situation. I don't know. What about you?
I mean, I don't think it would ever end up in a DFA situation. I think there's enough talent. I think there's enough control. I think there'll be a middling to small trade for him. But yeah, no, as you said, it's been a case of it's been similar to what we've always seen. And early doors, I saw some at bats, and he was shuffling and he was doing his thing.
Yeah.
And he was seeing pitches well, and I kept seeing his at bats and thinking, it's not too bad. It's okay. We can work with this. He looked like he knew what he was doing. He looked like he was trying. And then you looked at the stats, and then they carried on being bad, and they got to the point where it is a case of the Marlins, in a similar vein with Avi, obviously that's a completely different financial situation. It is a case of, as long as the Marlins are at 500, and I think they will be for a while, how long do they put up with that? Because the longer you put up with it, the more you're putting pressure on the rest of the team to deliver to keep you close to that wildcard spot.
Yeah.
And I think the closer we get to it, the quicker they're going to make that move. And with Avi, I think that could happen as well later in the season because of the money. It's going to get to a point where you're seeing a team that has a chance to be competitive late into a season, and they're going to make moves that they're going to have to force their hand into making moves to take non-competitive guys out of the lineup.
Yeah.
And I don't think Jesus sticks with the organization. If they do that, it is a case of we've been here, we've done that. How many times can you send a guy down, let him break at AAA, and then come back up? No, I like Jesus. I think he's a fun character. He's goofy as all hell, but I think his next opportunity at the major leagues, if this doesn't work out here and now, could be with a different organization.
I tend to agree, and I think that the point that Craig's making is that the Marlins just crying out for some lefty sticks. They don't have a ton of them in general. Obviously, Wendell's down as well at the moment. Not to say Wendell's a power lefty or anything, but they just don't have a ton of lefty guys in there at all when they're primarily facing right-handed pitchers most days. So they need that stick. They need the lefty guy, and they need someone they can trust. And right now, like the trust levels are likely low with Jesus. It's going to be really interesting to see the way it plays out. And it's to your point, I'm really intrigued if they go searching for a small scale trade, right now, or do they look to promote someone from AAA? But whilst guys in AAA are hitting, most of them are hitting. I'm still not sure. I feel there's other opportunities outside of the organization they may be exploring at this point too. So, we'll have to see how that goes. It's an intriguing situation, but overall with Jesus Sanchez, the power's in his hands. It's been in his hands in 2022. He had a few mental blips. 2023, no options, like pressure's on. Makes the roster. I don't think he would have made the roster personally if he had options. I feel like gut feel is he would have been sent down, but I don't know. But again, it's underwhelming, and so the Marlins have got another call to make here. Avisail Garcia, we don't know where he's at. He obviously got hit on the wrist yesterday. X-rays were clear, so sounds like maybe a couple of days out. But again, to your point with Avi, it's going to be interesting to see, how long, if he is the anchor, as in it's not anchor in a good way. It's like dragging the team by anchoring it down. How quick they are to make a move on that. But one other guy I want to talk to you about is Mean Gene Segura. But before we do that, I want to let you know about our good friends over at So Rare. Mentioned these boys yesterday, and I absolutely love it. It's all over Twitter if you've seen it. Tons of people sharing their cards and their teams, which is great. And it's a revolutionary fantasy baseball game and marketplace, transforming fans into owners with officially licensed digital cards featuring players from across every single Major League Baseball team. Unlike other fantasy baseball platforms, So Rare managers truly own their fantasy experience, collecting, buying, selling, and competing with player cards against global opponents to win epic rewards. Win or lose, you still own your cards. There's no cost to play. Sensational. The game weeks, it's twice weekly with a span of a 3 to 4 day cycle. At the end of the game weeks, So Rare managers who rank at the top or near top of the leaderboards win a variety of rewards, which can include So Rare scarcity cards, game tickets, merchandise, signed jerseys, and that Avisail Garcia VIP experience. Prizes may vary depending on the competition. Someone may shout at me at some point for this copy read. It may be. I'm slightly flexing it. Not sure if that is false advertising. Nevertheless, head to sorare.com/lockedon. That's spelled SORARE.com, sorare.com, to draft your team of free player cards, set your lineup, and start competing today to win epic rewards. Again, and the reminder of this link, this website, this URL, that's the right language, sorare.com/lockedon. Start playing today. All right, Sean Barrett, when I go to Fangraphs right now and I sort the Marlins hitters by WRC plus, weighted runs created plus, and I sort them in ascending order, if that's the right way of phrasing it, lowest first, Gene Segura pops up pretty quick. WRC plus right now of 16. 16 for Mean Gene Segura. However, there have been some signs of improvement, I would say, with Mean Gene. Some hard hit balls yesterday. Any concerns thus far with Mean Gene, or is it just bad luck at this point?
I've created a monster, haven't I? I've got you going and sorting WRC Plus on FanDuel.
What's going on?
What is going on? I think when we talk about the concerns with Avi and Jesus, they're long-standing. They're images that we've seen from 2 years, and not just because Segura's new in the Marlins jersey, but because this is not what we saw from him last year. I think it is a case of he'll get a longer leash. The defense over at third has been okay. I think at the moment there isn't a viable option inside the organisation. The team are going to make that move. I think they still want to see Groshans get a bit of time in the minors, and I think it'd be too early for the team to make that move. If you look at his BABIP, he has got unlucky. I don't think the at bats to begin the season they looked pretty bad. It wasn't just that he was getting bad luck; they didn't look competitive.
Yeah.
So the knocks that he's had the last couple of days, kind of 2 hits in 2 games, is hardly that much to get yourself excited about. But it is a case of the season's long, and if this cold spell that he's had was in the middle of July, we wouldn't be talking about it. It's only because it's the beginning of the season, and your numbers up there on the scoreboard, and it's reading out 1 something.
Yeah,
it looks dreadful. So yeah, I think we just got to give him time, give him an opportunity to prove that he is still the person he was. He is older, and obviously we're not expecting prime Segura, but if he can hit a relatively empty 270, play decent defense, I think the way the Marlins are constructed, he is going to be their number 6-7 hitter.
Yep.
They don't need a lead-off guy. They don't need a middle of the order bat. They just need a guy that can come up with timely hits from here and there. When you're hitting 270 in the 6th or 7th slot, there's usually going to be a guy on base, more often than not in front of you. Although this is Marlins, and that means that those knocks can be can knock in RBIs. If he can knock in 55, 60 RBIs in that hole, then that's what the Marlins probably look at as his ceiling, and you'd certainly take it.
Yeah, for sure, mate. I think you've hit the nail on with Segura. I think he's found his role, he's found his spot in the lineup. It's going to be at that 6-7 range. He's going to be playing third base the majority of the time. We saw it the other day, to your point as well. Avisail Garcia double, and then a big RBI single from Gene Segura to get Avi in. I mean, it was just, it's a Kim Ang masterclass there, no doubt. I mean, Avi honors a double, then Segura brings him home. Love to see it. Talked about the catching situation, because this is one of the wildest situations I've seen. Firstly, Nick Fortes is just cruising along here with not a lot of success, and it's kind of going under the radar a touch, primarily because Jacob Stallings gets slandered every time he's out there. I must say, and I've been watching all the games like you have, Stallings has always looked like he's about to break out. I've had the feeling that there's something coming here with Stallings, or potentially. And then there was something on Twitter earlier on. I think you commented on it, so you'd have seen it too. Jacob Stallings is the major league leader in average exit velo, correct?
You are correct, and all the anti-analytics people out there right now are saying, "See, it means nothing."
What was the launch angle?
Yeah, launch angle was 3.4, I think it was. If you hit the ball hard on the ground, you've got 4 defenders, including the pitcher. You've got 4 defenders stood right in front of you. They're going to gobble that up every day. Just a little bit of launch angle on top of that, knock it over that infield. He could become an offensive threat, but I don't actually foresee that happening. The Marlins have got a supposedly defensive-only catcher who at the moment isn't actually doing well with the defense. And Fortes is a young backup catcher with power potential. At the moment, they are both empty spots in the lineup, but you could look at 25 other teams in the league and see 2 empty spots in the lineup from their catchers as well. So it is what it is.
It is. I want to put it on record right now on Monday or Tuesday, the 17th or 18th of April, depending on when this episode is and which time zone you're in. I want to put on record that I am bullish about the Marlins catching situation. I think there's a Stallings breakout in there, like what I've seen. I also know that Nicky Fortes is a stud, and he's going to have a nice year as well. I think it's in there where I don't think we'll be saying that this is an empty spot in the lineup. Overall, it is right now. But I feel like there's more to come. A bit like with Gene Segura, I feel there's more to come. I feel like Jacob Stallings, I can see it. I can see it. And Nick Fortes, we have seen it. But he's just kind of cruising under the radar a touch at the moment with a lack of production. Maybe with Nick Fortes, what's happening is he's catching Jesus Luzardo most games. And so we're getting like good vibes about Nick Fortes because he's part of these Jesus Luzardo masterclasses. Jesus Luzardo going this evening against the Giants. The Giants are in town. They've had a bit of plans. Their game ended up being called off after they sat around for hours. Then their plane was diverted around a storm that was happening in South Florida. So they may be kind of travel hungover, let's say. They just got, in theory, swept on the road by the Tigers. It was a 2-game series in the end. However, the pitching matchups, they line up pretty well for the Giants. They're bringing their strength in here. But, this is an interesting series for the Fish right now, in my opinion, where I feel like if they play well, then this is, again, another series that's there for the taking right now. But they do need to play well. And we know with the Giants, they love a platoon. They love a matchup kind of game. A little bit like how the Diamondbacks play too. So this could go, one of either ways. I'm feeling optimistic though, Sean, to be honest with you, heading into this series that the Marlins can piece their 3rd series win together on the bounce. What about you?
I mean, for me, I think a lot of it will come down to the pitching. We are facing their 1-2-3. They've got good pitching. But the Marlins 2-3-4 have been pitching, well, in their last appearance, have pitched really well. Yeah. I think you're right with the Giants in the sense of they are one of those, what I'd call smarter teams. They look at the game more analytically than the others. This is, again, going to be another interesting competitive series against a team that have playoff aspirations. And it's another stern test. When we talked in spring about the idea that this first month is a bit of a death row of opponents.
It is.
So far, the Marlins have played them at a high level and literally floating on 500 and doing exactly what they need to do. If they can continue to go 500 for the rest of the month through this hard set of teams, then they really do set themselves up for a good year.
Yeah, they do. If the Marlins come out of April 500, then they are really set to accelerate. Like it really does, open up. There's a couple of series coming against the Bravos in the near term, which is going to be a big test. What I'm going to say about the Giants series, whenever I watch the Marlins and Giants, and I've watched a ton of them in the past couple of seasons, they're always close games, always close, low-scoring games. I'm going to put it there right now. In the 3-game series, I think the total number of runs scored for both teams in those 3 games is under 15. Under 15 runs total in the 3 games is what I'm going. I think it's going to be extremely low-scoring, scrappy, but I think the Marlins, there's a way for them to eke out 2 wins here, all being well. Sean, what about you? Any bold takes? Any thoughts heading into this series that you wanted to flag, or are we out of here?
No, I'll always predict a Cooper home run. So
there we go.
I'll leave it with you.
Love it. Love to see it. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate everyone making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day. Maybe a second. It could have been, depending on where you've listened to this at. Thanks to the UK GOAT Sean Barrett as well, of course. Tomorrow, which will probably be Wednesday's episode, we're going to look back probably at the last couple of games that have actually taken place, dig out some of the key topics from that one. So I appreciate everyone for joining me today, potentially for a doubleheader, and particularly the everydayers. Do comment on YouTube if you are an everyday. I'd love to hear from you and hear who is tuning into Locked On Marlins truly daily. Love to see it, guys, and I'll be back very, very soon.